we've just passed the check-in section by the Huguenot Tunnel, so you can either pay cash or by card, and then you take a slip, and then they just let you through the toll gate. And then you can see all the roads here are well maintained. It's nicely tarred. There is flicker, so if you're driving here through the night, you'll be able to see the roads. And then the street lights are also well maintained, and then they keep everything painted so that it's well maintained. Then you can obviously see on my right there's big mountain ranges, big forest. It's quite yeah, it's very beautiful, like a nice sight. And then on the left you can see there is more trees and then more greenery, surrounded by a lot of mountains. So we're gonna come across a bridge, and then once we go past the bridge, we'll go directly into the Huguenot Tunnel. So they do have a lot of small exit within the tunnel in case of a collapse, but the tunnel is quite well built, so the structure and the foundation is quite solidified, and obviously the people that built it ensured that it was up to standard and safety. So there's a lot of traffic that goes in and out of the tunnel, especially through busy seasons, Christmas, New Year's. A lot of tourists come between Western Cape and Northern Cape, all go through there. So you can see up front is the bridge, and then like to the left it's basically a nice farmland, and then to the right is basically the valley within the different mountain ranges. Yeah, so the roads here are quite well maintained, and then they do have cameras every now and then to just ensure that people are not speeding. There are baboons. So one thing you get in South Africa is a lot of wild animals, because there's so many mountain ranges. There's like deers, there's some baboons, there's birds, there's various other types of amphibians like lizard and insects and such. So you can see in front, they're telling us to slow down, and then basically you're now going to enter the Huguenot Tunnel. Quite sort of claustrophobic. There's only two lanes, one lane going that way and another lane coming this way, but there is lights that's inside 24/7. So I think they do have generators just to ensure that even if there is electricity cut, the tunnel is not affected. And then you can see up front there is sort of bands towards the side. The speed limit within the tunnel is 60 kilometers per hour, and obviously some of the bigger trucks, they would need to maybe drive a bit slower depending on the load that they carry. But it's essential that you keep the headlights on in the car because it is very dark here. There's no natural light other than the artificial light that's being put here. So obviously oncoming traffic and traffic going that way, it's better to keep your headlights on so that you can maintain not only a safe following distance but also a guide for incoming traffic so that they actually can see. So you can see the tunnel goes quite far through the entire tunnel, and in the tunnel it's also very limited to cell service. So like my GPS doesn't work in the tunnels, and you won't get cell phone signals in here, and yeah, it's very it's literally inside the entire mountain, so it is very well constructed. So we've been driving for about 2 minutes or so now. I think we're about almost 2/3 of the way through the tunnel. So the other side of the tunnel, you basically just come across. There is no checkpoint. You can just go straight onto the Ing1 where it joins the road. But since the tunnel goes right through the entire mountain, it is quite a distance that you need to travel. It's obviously not so as you drive, it does take a few minutes to go through the entire mountain. Alternatively, if you don't want to pay the fee to go through the tunnel, you essentially take another turn that leads you towards the top of the mountain, and then you essentially go after you climb to the top of the mountain, then you follow the zigzag path down the other side of the mountain, and then you exit out the other side. But yeah, if you're going through the tunnel, it's only one of 2 lanes that you can go through. It is very small, as I mentioned, so if there is an accident or some thought in the tunnel, it would basically block and clog up all oncoming traffic, since there is only 2 lanes, and there's no overtaking when you're in the tunnel, so you won't be able to jump into the next lane and go across, because that's very dangerous, since there isn't a lot of space where you can go through. So up front you can see that we're coming towards now the exit of the tunnel. So the whole trip was about 3 minutes, if we're averaging maybe 60 kilometers an hour. Yeah, so you can see it's not a short distance that you need to travel. So now we're on the other side of the tunnel. You can see there's mountains, and then you basically just ride back onto the Ing1, and then that bridge is essentially, if you don't want to take the tunnel, then you would go across that bridge to over the mountain, and essentially so even though we are past the tunnel, you can see there's still a lot of big mountain ranges, and there's nice sort of grassland on the side here. So as I mentioned before, South Africa is surrounded by a lot of empty land. So other than the usage of like farmers where they grow cattle or sheep, South Africa also exports a lot of wine. So they do have lots of grape farms. But you can